franchise, now that we have more clues, now that there's more stories that has been told
Okay, so
around
we
it,
have that one.
maybe the
We
dominoes
have
fall
the
in a different
storage
way,
containers. Okay.
and this one thing that
So
felt
I
like a
trust
core
them.
assumption can change everything. So I'm excited
Oh.
about that. Ash, anything that you want to weigh in on before I play the video?
No, let's do it.
Okay, let's just hop into it. So, last time we jumped slightly ahead
Okay.
to
I want you to try
part
this out.
3
Okay,
to
so
get that big reveal of Cassidy, but you recommend that we go back to part 2 just to get a sense of the build up to it, correct?
Yeah, so this will
Yeah, sure, start with that one.
establish and rehash some of the assumptions that were listed at the top of that big lore reveal, like the parallel to Andrew and things like that. So that will provide that information. Then I think we can go back to where we left off
Okay,
previously.
great, cool. Yes, and again, just remind you, because this is a 2-hour plus video and we want to get it done in 4 hours minus. 4 hours minus of my time. We're playing at 1.25 speed. You know, that's just what it is. That's how I consume all content at this point. Because, as with everyone else, my attention span is shot. Actually, my attention span is pretty solid, but I do watch videos at an accelerated rate. That's how I just absorb them. Let's go, missing children. Let's talk about these kids.
The missing child incident forms the foundation of practically everything in Five Nights at Freddy's.
Yes.
It was canon even in the first game, where Coffin wasn't even playing a story, let alone a decade-long lore-heavy franchise. Yet, much like
How dare you? He knew it the whole time. He absolutely had planned Fazgoo and sister locations and underground bunkers that were former pizza establishments built underneath existing residential households. Come on! How could you not think that? That was all there in place since episode 1. Glam rock animatronics with glitch traps that may or may not be AIs that have gone rogue. Who knows? Come on!
it was in FNAF, information on it is scarce. First of all, the books give the year it occurs as 1985. However, in The Truth About the MCI, Bomb Swoosh makes a very good argument for the game incident occurring in 1983 instead, which would put it very close to the blade.
Yeah, this is one of those ones where like
The movie seems to put the incident in 87, but that may just be setting up date weirdness. Nevertheless, we have no canon year, only vaguely 80s.
Yeah, it is one of those things that they have been very sketchy about it. Like they call out, 85 is the year cited in the books. And they're very explicit about that too. Like, oh, it's 1985. And there's a bunch of dead kids along the wall. But there's also like 6 dead kids along the wall. So very clearly it's indicating like, hey, just like Scott kind of initially alluded to, the stories are the books are similar stories set in a parallel universe that isn't necessarily one for one, but could offer clues about how it all lines up, right? And so, yes, it is this vague kind of nebulous thing. 83, 85 are kind of the years that you bounce between for sure.
We do have a specific day and month, though.
Yeah.
The first game tells us the story through rare, hard-to-spot newspaper clippings, which confirm the incident occurred at Freddy's and that there were 5 missing children. And it's confirmed by this point that after they were lured away, the killer stuffed their bodies into the animatronic suits. However, something that is not brought up enough is what else the newspapers tell us, specifically the first one.
Kids vanish at local P's area. Bodies not found. 2 local children were reportedly lured into a back room during the late hours of operation at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza on the night of June 26th, while video surveillance identified the man responsible and led to his capture the following morning. The children themselves were never found and are presumed dead. Police think that the suspect dressed as a company mascot to earn the children's trust.
Yeah, the June date and the fact that it's summer and stuff, like, very relevant. One of those things that, again, is kind of gets sketchy later on. And the fact that the bodies are never found, like, it took a long time for the bodies to be found. There's a lot of weirdness to those initial ones, again, kind of indicating that Scott didn't have everything fully planned out. And it gets nebulous as you get deeper into the series, where it's like, how did this all line up? But yeah, 100%. The June has all, it's oddly, for a franchise that is so non-specific about so many details, that's the one that they're like, oh, yeah, June 26th. Just so you know.
3 things here that people don't bring up enough. 1, the end of the incident at the least occurred on a specific date, June 26th. 2, the final 2 MCI were killed together.
Yeah.
And 3, we know they're the last 2 because someone was identified and arrested the following morning. The next newspaper then says that following this arrest, 5 children were eventually linked to the incident, and they have confirmation information that a man dressed in a mascot costume to lure them to a back room. The newspaper also says that the man was charged and convicted. Specifically, the headline says,
5 children now reported missing. Suspect convicted.
we know that then Freddy's remained open for several years after, only to close when no buyers wanted to be associated with it. The Lex newspaper specifically refers to the MCI as the tragedy that took place there many years ago.
Yeah, this is another one of those that gets finicky in the timeline. And again, as you try to piece together a lot of these dates and years, especially if you're trying to put hard and fast years on things, again, things get real sketchy because, yeah, these articles, because they're the first pieces of lore, there's sometimes a lot of times they're the most difficult to fit in because there wasn't a whole story crafted around at that time. And so the idea of this tragedy was years ago, many years ago, in fact, like sets it so there's such a large gap of time there. It's really fascinating, and I think I'm excited to see them call this out, and I just want to stop and applaud them for calling it out because it is they're right. These are details that tend to get brushed over and overlooked in a lot of ways, just by the nature of them being so early in the timeline, them kind of being nebulous, and it being a minor thing, but also some of the most concrete information that we get across the board, but they are hard to fit in.
We also know for a fact that Afton was the murderer. However, the question of whether he was the one arrested and convicted is a big one.
Yes.
Because the answer to that has to be a no.
Correct.
He was active in the company by 1987 at the least, and still the manager and robot designer for the fun times. Feel like a convicted child murderer would get axed pretty quickly in the company. So someone was caught on camera, arrested, and convicted. But not William.
Yeah, the conviction, again, is one of those weird ones where the fact that he was convicted is huge, right? You are tried for the crime, and you are found guilty of the crime, right? Like, done. You have been convicted. You are presumably in jail, right? Like, you are in jail for a prolonged period of time. If it's child murder, child kidnapping, you know, whatever, like, that's a hefty prison sentence, my friends. So, William Afton is still going about. Who was actually thrown in prison? Great question.
We'll get to who we think it was in a moment.
There you go.
As for the children themselves,
Precisely.
we know the names of 4 of the 5 children who disappeared. Specifically here are the 3rd and 6th games. In the 3rd game, the bad ending shows 5 animatronic heads positioned specifically, each with 1 glowing eye, with the exception of presumably Fredbear, who has 2. Upon completion of Pizzeria Simulator's Lorekeeper ending, we are given a shot of a graveyard on a sunny hill. The first 4 graves are positioned in an eerily similar way to the heads in the above shot, with the 5th obscured by grass, and the 6th high up on the hill above them.
Yep.
The names that can be seen are Gabriel, Fritz, Susie, and Jeremy. 2 of them were identified as missing children in the 4th closet, which released the following June.
Yep.
Ironically, June 26th.
That's funny. I didn't know that. That's a really good call out. I like that. June 26. Was it intentional? Likely not, honestly. It would be cool if it was, and I know this franchise tends to lean into those sorts of coincidences if they can happen. But knowing the realities of like publication and stuff like that, that's a hard one to really. I would be impressed if they were to line that up, especially when you're dealing with like third parties who are supposed to deliver things and stuff. That would be hard. Clap in half though for the coincidence. That's awesome.
Gabriel's name was confirmed in the later graphic novel adaptation. With additional information that Susie is Chica, which we'll get to in a minute, we can very easily place the tombstones along the heads and confirm that Gabriel
Susie's
possessed
confirmed to be Chica
Freddy,
everywhere.
Susie possessed Chica, and Jeremy possessed Bonnie.
At a certain point, Susie was so confirmed to be Chica, like it became a meme amongst us and in the videos at that point. It was like, Susie, who was the first? The first of the missing children. The one who possessed Chica, like, yeah, we get it, we know. That is hammered home. All the rest of them, yeah, there's a little bit of fudging that you can get away with. Like, is Jeremy absolutely the one in Bonnie? Yeah. We'd like to. There's weak evidence to suggest it with the heads and stuff like that. Does it matter? Yeah, not really. Fritz, Foxy kind of matches a little bit. Just one of those things.
The 6th grave up on the hill is presumed to be Charlotte Emily's, as the blurry name seems to match in length and shape, and it matches her puppet characterization of watching over the other children in death. The other 2 missing children in the book series are a girl with long dark hair named Cassidy and a young artsy boy named Michael Brooks. What's important to note there is that neither of them are named Jeremy. As Michael Brooks is confirmed as the novel's possessor of Golden Freddy, it seems likely that Cassidy replaced Jeremy as Bonnie's possessor in that universe. It should also be acknowledged that the writers of novels, Coffin and Bree Grizzly, would have known that
That new Scott drop. Have I seen this picture of Scott? Anytime you see like a rare Scott.
Rarest Scott.
Rarest Scott. I haven't seen that one. I don't think I was aware of that Scott. Wow.
The lighting is great. That was golden hour.
That That's golden hour, Scott.
Golden Hour Scott.
I like it. Well,
GHS.
I feel like just like the animatronics in this franchise, there needs to be that many. Like, that's Withered Scott. Oh, that's Golden Hour Scott. That's Glam Scott, which would have been ours.
Yeah, that's
Glam
Finale
Yeah,
Scott.
Finale Scott. Come out with a series of U2s just around Scott Cawthon. All the different shots of unhinged Scott. Amazing.
You would have known the books take place in an alternate universe to the games by this point. Cawthon was, of course, in charge of the franchise and he decided to write in Charlie as the puppet around then. I feel like these grades were part of the confirmation that they take place in separate universes. Now, if Obscured Grade was supposed to be Michael Brooks, that leaves out Cassidy. And if Obscured Grade is Cassidy, it leaves out Michael. It would be very easy for Jeremy's grade to be Cassidy, but I really feel that adding in a different kid with a specific nudge that the novel MCI are different from the game's MCI. Just keep in mind going forward that while having 3 of the same missing children per universe pretty much gives us confirmation that the above picture is meant to represent those kids, the novels can't be used as a factual basis for all MCI information.
No, that's, yeah, agree, 100%. Like, again, like I said earlier, novels, books, ever, all the books, like they are suggestions. I think the closest book that you get, and again, we're going to get into this, I'm sure, later when we start getting deep into Cassidy, is the Security Logbook. The Security Logbook, beyond all the other books, that one feels the most tied to the game canon rather than a separate book canon. Because at that point, the books, the novels had just started to come out. I forget exactly the timeline of the book releases, but there is something about the Security Logbook that feels so specifically tied to the games, especially, that when you say, like, oh, the book evidence, that one is almost more of game evidence, even though it isn't in the form of the book. That's the way I've always kind of seen it. It's tied to that because, you know, Mike is a security guard. It is locked in there. It is for him specifically in the context of the gameplay of FNAF 1.
We don't know a lot about the missing boys, but we actually have a lot of information.
Lot of information on Susie.
For instance,
So much information on
a
Susie.
glitch in Withered Chica will claim
I have seen everything.
You've seen everything.
this combined with her gravestone being first in Help Wanted 2 seems to imply that she was the first of the missing children. Then we actually see her abduction earlier in Pizzeria Simulator. The game Fruity Maze, when it lights up, shows the reflection of a young
Right.
blonde girl in a purple dress.
They just lean
inside the game.
hard into
As she
Susie. I don't know why.
continues to climb, though, more fruit is replaced with the sprite of a dead dog, and music starts being replaced by the sound effects of a car collision, as her reflection gets more upset. When the third game is completed or lost, we see Spring Body hovering behind her, and the text,
He's not really dead. He is over here. Follow me.
with this, a story emerges.
Can I just say also, the way the franchise has delivered clues to the audience has evolved over the years, right? It went from a couple of a couple of rare screens in the game in the early days to now where it is, where there's literally lore all throughout these three-dimensional worlds that we're exploring. They're in the items, they're in the level design, they're in the environment. It's just all over. It's almost overwhelming how much it is, and I think that's why Security Breach was such a big, difficult jump for the audience to make, myself included, where it's like, whoa, they're just throwing everything at the wall, and part of it was the clues didn't really cohere into anything, but 2, it was this idea of like, wow, there's clues everywhere, whereas before it was, you know, a couple screens here, a death minigame there, whatever. This moment of FNAF 6, to me, was really peak in terms of delivering a lot of those clues. Some of those minigames and that Susie moment is so chilling and so just so upsetting, so frightening, but also like so creatively done that you're looking at the arcade screen and the reflection of the arcade screen. I think it is beautiful is the wrong word to use, but it's close, right? This idea of like it's upsetting, but it's like very well executed. And I still remember to this day, like, playing that and just being, like, really viscerally upset about that, but also being so excited about, like, the clue that we had just been given. And we're seeing the curtain pull back a little bit. We're seeing a moment that has been hinted at and being very cryptic this entire time. Finally put to screen and finally confirmed, which was really compelling. Anyway.
Susie's dog had previously been hit by a car and killed, and William used this information to lure her to the back room where she became his first victim. We have similar cross-continuity confirmation that this is Susie via the fourth Closet graphic novel, where she is depicted as looking exactly the same.
Exactly the same.
Well, she mentions that Bonnie helped her find her puppy,
Yeah.
so this is as confirmed as it gets that it's Susie.
Yes.
Susie also gets characterization in the Fazbear Fright.
Right, for some reason, again, like, I don't know why Susie got so much love when it comes to, like, lore confirmation. Maybe because it was like, well, she's the one that people know, and so let's just confirm it every way to Sunday, but just everywhere throughout the series.
Though interestingly, in that she's given a completely different physical appearance, with long brown hair and brown eyes, a completely different outfit, and no mention of a dog. Though the game Susie descriptor matches up quite a bit with the doll she and her sister share, Gretchen. That is pretty weird. Though from interviews with the co-authors, we can gather that a lot of the contradictions to canon were based on a lack of information given to them. In the Five Bear Fights universe, Susie is still a missing child, and specifically the one connected to Chica, so we can consider this another cross-continuity confirmation. Susie is the only universal constant, apparently.
Yes, very
Before
true.
Susie would have come the other children, and only recently have we been given a definitive order.
Right.
In Hellfire 2, when the player reaches the end of Princess Quest 4, they encounter the graves of all the children of the happiest day. Only by lighting them in the puzzle's correct order can the secret Bonnie mask be located. This parallels the original Princess Quest games, in which you have to do the same thing in order to release Glitch Trap, but the developers of Hellfire 2 specifically chose to put the missing children's puppets here, identifying these graves as theirs.
Yep.
This really implies that the grave order is the death order.
Yes, 100%.
With Susie as the first, that gives us an order. Chica Susie, Foxy Fritz, Freddy Gabriel, Bonnie Jeremy, Golden Freddy, and Puppet Charlie.
It is a weird order. I do like to have Foxy be second. It is odd, but yes, 100%. Like this is again one of those things that's about as explicit as you get in this franchise, right? Like, hey, here are gravestones. Here are puppets next to those gravestones. Put them in an order to unlock a thing. Yes, very much so.
This surprised the fanbase a lot, because most of us had assumed that Charlotte had died before the missing children. Henry refers to William's kills as the wound first inflicted on me, and in the novel trilogy, Charlie dies 2 years before the MCI.
Yep.
But it looks like we were wrong the whole time. Or maybe it got retconned, who knows. Or maybe
Right.
Puppet was always meant to be after the MCI, and the only retcon was that it was the game universe's Charlie. The latter would make sense, as Henry's kid's death in the novels is described completely differently, with the toddler being kidnapped from a linen closet by Spring Bonnie, rather than stabbed outside by a non-disguised William Afton. Sammy may not have ever been meant to be a puppet, just some random other dead kid. Charlie dying last also explains why the children are already dead for Give Gifts Give Life, when she arrives to give them the masks, and why she stuck around in the first place, which will be discussed more in a later section. But I'm sure you all noticed something interesting. When naming off kids for the gravestones, Connie didn't name Golden Freddy, did she?
So, real quick before we move away, because I think the Charlie discussion is an important one. Yeah, I think that's one of the weirdest parts of that moment is you light the gravestones, you get this order, but then, yeah, Charlie's last. And so, does that contradict FNAF 6, Henry being like a wound first inflicted on me? Well, it sounds like it was inflicted on a lot of other people before you, bro. Like, again, going to that narcissism that we were talking about last episode in reacting to this, but it's like, no, sounds like a lot of people's lives were affected before you. Like, get in line, friendo, if that is truly the order, right? So you do get this, like, weird disagreement over, you know, that one very important, very pivotal line from one of the most memorable, if not the single most memorable moment of the franchise, Henry's finale speech in FNAF 6, right? So there's understandable a lot of confusion, and again, it's like, what? Well, what? Like, we thought we knew this, right? We thought we knew this. And there's a real resistance to throwing that sort of thing away. It just does kind of strange things with the timeline in general, right? Like we see, if that is Charlie dying outside of the pizzeria, why is William killing her outside of a suit, right? When he's already established as a serial killer now that he is killing kids inside the pizzeria with the suit, right? The puppet feels like a first kill. It was one of those things that, like, even going back to our early FNAF 2, FNAF 3 theories, like episodes 2, 3, and 4 of Game Theory, where we were calling these out in Game Theory, where Scott went out of his way to say Matt Pat solved basically FNAF 2, where we said, like, oh, the puppet is the first kill and this and that. So he said, like, there was, like, one thing wrong, so maybe that was it. But it does seem weird for there to be an established pattern of murders happening inside the pizzeria and then for one to randomly happen outside. It seems like, from a serial killer perspective, you have the one incident that starts things and is done. I've watched a lot of Law and Order. I've watched a lot of Criminal Minds. My family was really into the whole like murder criminal genre growing up. So I watched all those, CSI, all of them. And, you know, the one thing that they tell you over and over again is, like, the serial killer, the first one is always a little bit different from the ones that come afterward because they develop a pattern over time. And so for the one to be outside of the pizzeria without the suit should be the first one based on just, like, how these things tend to go. So for Charlie then to be last, weird. So maybe they're going to say that that's not Charlie. The other thing I'll say that's weird about it, too, is, like, it is odd to think, hey, these other kids died, and then all of a sudden it's like, you know, but they're dead, and we see them depicted as these 4 dead bodies, and the puppet's there, but they died years ago, or like, you know, prior to the puppet existing, and then she flies around and does that. It's just, it's odd, right? Whereas if the puppet is there first, and then the others kind of come in, it makes a little bit more sense, just from a logical flow. It's, you know, but then again, we're talking about logic in this franchise, so, who knows? I'm excited to see where they go.
And many of you will be saying, but we have a name. Let's take a look at the security logbook.
I love it.
It's just a few weeks after Pizzeria Simulator. The
Please tell me you solved the Foxy
Security
grid.
Survival logbook is mostly a little puzzle collection.
No one solved the
with
Foxy
some
grid.
very important lore
It
information.
does.
Firstly, it practically confirms that Michael Afton is the same character as Mike Schmidt, the first game's security guard. He writes his name as Mike in the logbook, meaning he's a security guard named Mike, but he references enough specific sister location stuff to make it clear it's Michael Afton, namely the Immortal and the Restless, Exotic Butters, and Casual Bongos.
Right? Which is why, you know, I think when the movies show, you know, like the fact that I would be surprised if the movies went the route of Mike is an Afton, unless they do some weird stuff with the lore and reveals of like, you were a robot the whole time or whatever, right? There's ways that you can spin it, but I do think it'll be weird if that reveal comes, because it'll come out of nowhere. But yeah, I think the security logbook does, at least in the game world, confirm that the two are one and the same, even if that's not necessarily intended. The thing I was gonna say, like when people ask, like, what's my favorite thing that Five Nights at Freddy's has done, like, what's your favorite game? What's your favorite game? The security logbook is actually legitimately one of my favorite things. It's not, you know, it's not one of the big, you know, buzzy, controversial books. It's not one of the big flashy games. I just think I thought it was a brilliant extension. I thought it was so clever, creative. I bought this thing on the offhand. It's like, why would I buy a kid's activity book? I'm like, well, it's part of this franchise, I might as well buy it. And I opened it up, and it's like, oh, there's everything is in this thing. There's so much in here to discover, and so many puzzles and meta games. It was so smart. And to this day, I was praising earlier the Fruity Maze minigame. This is another one that I think is underappreciated. Like, it was such a smart move. It was so cool and so unique at the time that I love it. And I think, you know, the Poppy Playtime book just came out, and I've been reading that, and it's fun and it's cool, and you get the lore details in there, but it's still not the same as the way that this is pieced together and the way that this is constructed. There's a depth to it that is really compelling.
The second thing it confirms is a certain name. Throughout the book, there are two spirits that seem to be communicating with each other. One through faded text, scribbling notes in the margins of the pages, and another by altering the pre-existing text into their responses. We will call these spirits Faded and Altered for now.
Yep.
The thing is, we know for a fact that Altered is the crying child. Faded frequently asks if they recognize drawings of the crying child's toys and references his party specifically. Altered's responses, namely "the party was for me," line up with the questions and show that the second spirit is indeed our CC. As to who Faded is, well, on several pages, Faded wrote the phrase "my name." One of these is specifically on a gravestone, and with the book's close release of FNAF 6, it was immediately supposed that this was revealing the name on the 5th gravestone.
I mean, yes.
Which is the "my name" pages, the page's numbers, or other numbers, should the page number be obscured, are incorrect. Upon collecting all of them and going to the word search, the numbers can be used as coordinates to locate letters, which spell out very clearly Cassidy.
That is a very satisfying pen, just by the way.
Right?
Is that like a marker? Like it's a very thick, heavy marker. It's satisfying though.
It's saturated. It's just thick enough.
It's the appropriate thickness.
Yes.
I appreciate the thickness of that pen
But does it bleed?
through the page.
Yeah.
Ooh,
That's the big one.
That's a big one. Can't have that.
Mm-mm.
Is why. So, that comes up with the
Oh, Dorko!
Cassidy. Cassidy. So, the hidden code of this book is a name, and its name is Cassidy. Remember that, guys.
And we will not forget.
That are not supposed to be there are "it's me," "who are you," and "what is your name."
Yep.
Very quickly, a conclusion was drawn by the entire fan base, that being that Cassidy is the name of the 5th missing child, and the one sucked into Golden Freddy. But in talking to the Crying Child, we also have more information on them that changes everything about this kid. One of the specific things that Crying Child says is "I can't see," which brought to attention the Fazbear Fright books, though it was released 2 years later, but I digress. Within these books, there's a continuing story at the end of each novel referred to as the Stitch Ray Stingers, in which a possessing animatronic is causing destruction wherever it goes. This is meant to tie together multiple Fright stories, but the important thing to the Cassidy interpretation is the Stitch Wraith itself. Within the Stitch Wraith are 2 children's souls, Jake and Andrew. While Jake died of a brain tumor, Andrew is a vengeful victim of William Afton. He is very specifically the vengeful actual spirit of the Frights universe,
Yeah.
made explicit in the Man in the Moon 1280, where he is keeping Afton in an eternal nightmare despite attempts to either revive or kill him, solely to make him suffer. This, of course, brings to mind the vengeful spirit of Ultimate Custom Night, who will be discussed in more detail in the Ultimate Custom Night section.
Oh,
The
very exciting.
vengeful spirit is a victim of Afton, keeping him in eternal torment.
Yes.
Now, it's not Andrew in the games. While I know this is controversial in the fan base, it's pretty clear that several Fright stories take place in an alternate universe, and the Stitch Ray Stingers are some of them. Namely, just because of two little things: Into the Pit and the Man in Room 1280. Into the Pit establishes that the MCI victims were never missing, but found pretty easily. While you might think Oswald seeing the kids all propped up with party hats was just for dramatic effect, it's confirmed in the final story year of the band that this was intended to be the actual way the kids were found.
Yeah.
In the games, rather famously, the missing children are missing, their bodies never located. Certainly not in such a gruesome scene. Meanwhile, the Man in Room 1280 is dying from burns. Of course, Scrap Trap was in the FNAF 6 fire, but he was long dead by that point. William Afton died of a spring walk failure in a hip background in the 90s, and then was trapped there without food or water for potentially decades.
Yeah.
The fire isn't what killed him. He would already be dead by the time the fire got to him. Custom Night in the games
There's
is how
something
rather
in
than the nightmare of
Minecraft,
Frights.
and that's where the
Yes,
instruction book.
and yes,
It's kind of hoping people
again,
join in. I'm guessing no
I
one
like them
has.
because they agree with me.
So,
No, I know.
Minecraft
I
about,
don't want to say, but,
figure out later
but no,
today or tomorrow.
I think what
how
I
to
like
live
is
stream it. I'm not sure how. If not,
I agree
watch
with their
some Tim's
rationale
videos
for a
about
lot
it, and then
of the controversy.
I did post
Right, they
videos
called out
about
that
it. You
Evan
guys can
is
hop
the
on
name
here if you
of
guys want
Brian
and
Child, which
talk
again,
to me about it.
I feel like I was kind of on the outskirts
I've been
of
playing Minecraft for quite some time.
the fan community
I got
for
introduced
not believing
to
the
it
Evan
by
theory.
one of my
So
friends.
I support that. There was also a lot of people who really leaned into the whole
Would play
the
more
whole
often.
Andrew is the
Not saying I
vengeful
don't like
spirit
my
thing.
job or whatnot, but my
Yeah,
job
so
does take a
in the
lot
books,
of
again,
time,
they
and
kind of
whenever I
explain
get
this, but just a
home,
little
I
more
just want
color.
to go to bed.
There's
It's just
those Stitch Ray stories.
a lot of
They
work
repeatedly
and
hit
I'm
over and over again.
tired,
There's a good
so
spirit in
it's been a
this
while
entity,
since I
and
played
there is a bad
Minecraft.
spirit in this entity, or an
I'm
angry
trying to
spirit.
get back
in this
into
entity. The
it.
peaceful one, the good one, the holy child. He dies
And
of
now I'm just
cancer, I
getting
believe. And his soul
minerals and
passes
whatnot.
on gently into this
Ores.
entity, right?
Right now,
And
I'm
then there
home.
is the angry one who was brutalized by Afton and, is holding on by rage, and anything he touches through the lens of this Stitch Wraith, immediately dies because of the power of his agony. This and that, right? And so, in a lot of ways, it's a dual spirit theory. Are there two spirits inside of Golden Freddy, as indicated by the two lit eyes inside the FNAF 3 ending, the bad ending? All the other ones had one lit eye. Golden Freddy back there, Fredbear has two lit eyes, two spirits, right? And it's funny because for as much flack as we got for using the books, the fan base, in a lot of cases, would be very excited. They latched on to odd details in the books, and said that, oh, this is the solution. Hey, why is this one? Why are you? There were moments where they would just latch on to certain details in the books, and they're like, this is the one, this is the solution, but using the books is wrong. And so we went through this pendulum swing back and forth about when the certain details that it was okay to use the books and really use it, really lean in and say this is obviously the definitive answer versus no, the books are complete garbage, don't you dare use them at all. And over 10 years of this franchise, you've seen that pendulum swing back and forth on different books, different eras, different details, and they're right to call out